The woman who raised me after my mother died was the same woman who killed her. I did not know this the first time I called her mother. I did not know this the night my father married her either. I only learned the truth on the night the moon turned the color of blood, and by then, I had already given her my whole heart. I need to tell you everything from the beginning because I need anyone, to understand how gently a monster can smile. I was the only daughter of a king who loved his queen more than his own crown. My mother was kind, fierce, and full of secrets she never explained. On my 15th birthday, she made a strange vow. She would take me alone, with no guards, no soldiers, to a hidden temple deep in the forest. Just the two of us, like ordinary women, not royalty. We went, we prayed, and she never came home. My father waited that whole evening, pacing the palace halls, refusing to believe anything was wrong. By nightfall, his fear turned into panic. He rode into the forest himself, torches blazing, his minister at his side. They found a temple that no one in our kingdom had ever seen before, hidden so deep in the trees it felt like it didn't want to be found. And there on the temple steps lay my mother, her clothes soaked in blood, barely breathing. My father fell to his knees beside her, begging her to speak. She lifted one trembling hand and pointed toward the forest, toward the darkness, as if she were trying to tell him something with her last breath. Then her eyes closed, and they never opened again. I wasn't there. I was somewhere in that forest, unconscious, carried by a stranger, a wandering woman with an arrow buried in her shoulder, blood pouring from a wound she never once complained about. When my father's minister found her, she was barely standing, but she still had me cradled against her chest like I was the only thing left worth saving in the entire world. I made a promise to the queen, she whispered, fading in and out of consciousness. I told her I would bring her daughter home safely. I couldn't save the queen, but I will not break this vow, not even if it costs me my life. A wanderer, a nobody, bleeding out in the dirt, and still she begged them to save me first. They carried us both back to the palace. I survived. She survived. And for days, I couldn't stop thinking about the way she'd held me, the way she'd fought for a child she didn't even know. When my father went to thank her, she refused to even sit on the same bed. She sat on the floor instead, eyes lowered, and called herself nothing more than dust beneath his feet. I remember thinking, this is what humility looks like. I remember thinking, this is what love looks like. I was wrong about both. She told my father what she'd seen: 3 attackers, a temple empty of priests, my mother begging her with her final strength to save me instead of herself. I tried to protect the queen, she said, voice breaking. She forced me to run with you instead. I have no idea who did this, or why. My father, blind with grief, believed every word. I was the one who couldn't stop crying. I clung to her sleeve and begged my father to let her stay. She was the only person who made the ache in my chest feel smaller. My father agreed. He told her my mother had clearly trusted her, that she should remain in the palace to help raise me. She protested at first. How could someone like me live among royalty? But she stayed. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. She braided my hair every morning. She sang to me at night. She held me when I cried for a mother I was already starting to forget. I loved her the way only a grieving child can love someone who fills the emptiness, completely, desperately, without question. One evening, she told my father she had to leave. "I've stayed too long," she said. "This isn't where I belong." I sobbed until my father finally said the words that would destroy everything. "Don't go," he told her. "Marry me. Become her mother. Become our queen." She accepted. I remember the wedding. I remember the music, the flowers, the way she looked at me across the room with something I mistook for love. What I did not see, what no one saw, was what happened after midnight, when she slipped out of her chamber and walked alone into the garden. She looked up at the moon and whispered words in a language I had never heard. The moon turned red. The wind screamed through the trees. And out of nowhere, a creature made of shadow and smoke appeared before her. A witch, ancient and starving for power. "You finally did it," the witch hissed. "You married the king. You destroyed the queen. Now you must finish what you came here for." My new mother, my new queen, bowed her head. "What do you need from her?" "The white flower," the witch said. "The one only the princess's hands can touch. Bring it to me, along with her heart. Both belong to my master, Nishad, the most powerful demon this world has ever known. Bring me those two things, and I will finally be granted power beyond anything you can imagine." The witch placed something small and strange into her palm, a twisted root, pulsing faintly with dark light, and vanished into the night. The next morning, my father woke up coughing, his skin turning gray and lifeless by the hour. None of the royal physicians could explain it. He grew weaker every single day, until he stopped leaving his chambers altogether. I begged to see him. I was told to wait. And then one morning, I looked into my mirror and screamed. My own skin had darkened overnight, just like his. I didn't understand it. I didn't know yet that I was looking at the second half of a curse, one designed specifically for me. That was when she came to me, soft-voiced, gentle-eyed, the woman I trusted more than anyone alive. She told me there was a wise old healer who knew of a hidden well deep in the forest. Inside that well grew a single white flower. If I brought it back and let my father breathe its scent, he would be cured. "Why don't you get it?" I asked her, confused. "You know I'm terrified of water," she said softly. "But you, my darling, you could do it." I told her I was afraid too. She simply smiled, told me to rest, and said she would find another way. That night, my skin grew darker still. Something inside me, some quiet, stubborn voice, told me this wasn't a coincidence. I decided I would find the truth myself, with or without her help. I took my horse and rode alone into the forest, toward the well she had described. The whole ride there, I felt eyes on me. Every time I turned, the forest was empty, but the feeling never left. When I reached the well, a fox stepped out from the shadows and spoke to me in a voice as clear as a bell. "Don't go in there, princess. That isn't a well. It's a swamp. It will swallow you whole." I told her everything. My father's illness, my own changing skin, the woman who'd sent me here alone. The fox's eyes sharpened. "Come with me. There is someone who needs to speak with you." She led me to an old sage living deep in the woods, a man who looked at me like he already knew my whole life before I said a word. "Your mother was not an ordinary woman," he told me. "She was one of 7 magical guardians who protect this world from a darkness most people never even know exists. You are her daughter, which means you carry part of that power inside you, whether you know it or not." He handed me a small stone that glowed faintly in my palm. "This will lead you to someone who has been waiting for you for years. Follow the light." I followed it through the trees until it led me to an old, crumbling hut. Inside, lying motionless on the floor, was a dead rabbit. I stood there staring at it, and something inside me broke completely. My father was dying. My mother was gone. My own body was rotting in front of my eyes, and now even this small, strange hope had failed too. For a moment, the weight of everything I had lost felt heavier than anything I could carry. I felt the floor of that hut close in around me, and I let myself sink into the darkest thought I had ever had, that maybe it would be easier, simpler, to just stop fighting altogether. I don't fully remember how long I sat there in that black, hollow silence. I only remember that the stone in my hand never stopped glowing, even when I had stopped believing in anything. And somehow, that small, stubborn light was enough to pull me back before the darkness could take me completely. The stone slipped from my fingers and rolled toward the rabbit's body. The moment it touched him, light poured out across the room, and the rabbit transformed into a young man right in front of me. He looked at me, startled, then grabbed the stone and pressed its light against my skin. Whatever had been eating away at me, the darkness in my skin, the despair in my chest, both began to fade at once. "You saved me," he said, "and I think I just saved you too." His name was Varun. He told me he came from a world beneath ours, a world that had sent him here for a reason he didn't fully understand, until a dark force had trapped him in that rabbit's body, alive 12 hours a day, lifeless the other 12, waiting for someone pure enough to break the curse. That someone was me. The sage appeared again, and this time, he told me the rest. "The woman your father married is not your stepmother. She is the witch's servant. She killed your mother on these very steps to gain half of an ancient key. The other half is the flower hidden in that well, a flower only you can touch. She made you sick on purpose, so you would believe you needed the flower to save yourself, and so you would walk straight into her hands.
I felt something shift inside my chest.
Not sadness this time. Something sharper. Something that didn't shake. She used my grief, I said quietly. She used my love for her. Yes, the sage said, which is exactly why she never expected you to come back stronger. I asked him what I needed to do. He told me plainly. Varun could take me safely into the well, where the real flower waited, untouched by water or danger. I would bring it back, and then I would face her, not as a frightened girl anymore, but as my mother's daughter. Varun led me through the water, without a single drop touching my skin. Inside, glowing faintly at the bottom of that hidden world, was the white flower my mother had sealed away for exactly this moment, to protect the world from whatever monster wanted it. I broke it from its stem with my own hands. When we surfaced, she was already waiting for us, the witch standing beside her like a shadow stitched to her skin. "Bring me that flower," she said, her voice no longer soft, no longer gentle, no longer the voice that used to sing me to sleep. "I know what you did," I told her. "I know you killed my mother. I know you poisoned my father. I know everything." She laughed, a sound so cold it didn't even feel like it belonged to the woman who had braided my hair every morning for a year.
"Good.
Then you also know there's nothing you can do about it. Give me the flower, or I will kill your father exactly the way I killed your mother." I didn't hand it over. Instead, I let her come closer, let her believe I was still the same frightened girl from that hut. And the moment she reached for the flower, I struck first, using the very stone the sage had given me, turning her own arrogance into the opening I needed. She burned to ash in seconds, the curse she'd built her entire disguise around finally collapsing in on itself. The witch shrieked in fury and lunged for me next, binding both Varun and me in ropes of shadow, dragging us before her master, a demon so ancient he barely resembled anything human anymore. "I brought you her heart," the witch announced proudly, "and the flower besides. Together they'll bring my master back to life." "This flower is not yours," I said, my voice shaking but steady underneath. "My mother hid it to protect this world from exactly what you're trying to do." "You may be her daughter," the witch sneered, "but you don't have her power. We already destroyed her once. We can destroy you just as easily." That was when the old sage appeared behind her, calm as ever. "She may have died," he said, "but she didn't leave this world unprotected. She left behind 6 guardian powers, waiting for the right moment to return. 6 lights tore through the darkness and surrounded us. The ropes binding Varun and me dissolved instantly. The demon and the witch, faced with power they could never have predicted, were destroyed where they stood. My father recovered the very same hour, the gray fading from his skin like fog burning off in sunlight. I gave Varun the flower, as my mother had always intended, and watched him return to his world, finally free. I walked back into the palace that day as a different person than the one who had walked out of it. I had spent a year loving a woman who was planning my death the entire time, and somehow that betrayal didn't break me the way she hoped it would. It built something instead, something steady, something that doesn't flinch anymore when someone smiles too sweetly. People still ask me how I forgave myself for trusting her so completely. The truth is, I didn't need to forgive myself. I needed to remember her. Every time someone tells me grief makes people weak, I think of that hut, that stone, that single moment I almost let the darkness win, and I think of how close I came to never finding out what I was actually capable of. I am my mother's daughter. And the next time someone mistakes my kindness for weakness, they will learn exactly what that means.